Okay, we are discussing Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, which is in the Samyutta Nikaya, and this is actually talking a deep aspect of the Buddha's teaching, and that is the characteristic of non-self. And here actually Buddha explains non-self with respect to 5 aggregates, and we have already covered 4 aggregates now. We discussed how Buddha is explaining the form aggregate, the rupa khanda becomes non-self, and then how vedana khanda, the feeling aggregate, becomes non-self, sanya khanda, the perception aggregate, becomes non-self, and then the volitional formations, sankhara khanda, becomes non-self. So we discussed this already. So actually the logic that Buddha takes up here is very much based on the governability, or taking the aggregate, the form, feelings, perceptions, mental or volitional formations, keeping under our control. So if they actually really belongs to us, if they actually are self, they should be able to control as we like. But on the other hand, when we are closely analyzing, so there we can understand, say they are not really behaving as we wish. Rather, they have their own agenda. They have their own causes and conditions, and they behave according to those causes and conditions. And those causes and conditions, we have no control at all. As a result, these aggregates are also not behaving as we wish. And today, if we pay our attention to the last aggregate, that is the consciousness aggregate, there also Buddha mentioned to these 5 ascetics that the consciousness aggregate is also non-self. Actually, the teaching was given to the 5 ascetics, the 5 first monks, Kondanya, Baddiya, Vappa, Mahanama, Assaji, and they are already now noble people, or Sotapanna. So after hearing Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the first discourse of the Buddha, so Venerable Kondanya attained Sotapanna, stream entry. And then later Buddha continued to preach Dhamma. On the subsequent days, the others also attained Sotapanna. Now Buddha is giving a higher teaching to these venerables, and hearing which it is said, that is the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, hearing which it is said that the 5 ascetics, actually these 5 monks, became all arahants. So you can see this, the teaching of the non-self is given at a somewhat mature level. It is not immediately taught to the beginners. Rather, it has to be used at proper time. So if we are trying to use such teaching at very early, say conventional level, then we are not actually properly using those tools. Instead, we have to recognize what are the areas or what are the correct times that we need to use these kind of tools, these kind of teachings. Say if you have different types of tools available, you have a toolbox available, and you should have a kind of common sense where these tools are appropriate to use. Say when you are using kind of a carpentry, so you have to use those tools. If you are doing some electrical, say assembly, then there you have to use those tools. Likewise, so these teachings also have their appropriate time, appropriate occasion. There we can effectively use them. Especially this teaching of non-self have to be used at some mature level of vipassana. Now here, Buddha takes the opportunity to discuss consciousness aggregate. There he mentioned Viññānaṁ Anatta. Viññānaṁ ca hidam bhikkave atta abhavissa naidam viññānaṁ ābādāya saṅvatteya. Labbeta ca viññāne evam me viññānaṁ hotu evam me viññānaṁ ma ahositi. So he is talking about the consciousness aggregate. And he mentioned that the consciousness aggregate is non-self. And if this consciousness aggregate was self, then it should behave as we like, as we wish. Since it does not behave as we wish, therefore we can say the consciousness aggregate is also non-self. Because consciousness is non-self, consciousness leads to affliction. Now, since it is not governable, or it doesn't listen to us, or doesn't behave as we wish, it is subject to its own kind of fate, we can say. So it is depending on so many conditions, causes and conditions. And when those causes and conditions are changing, its result, this consciousness aggregate, also going to change. And those various changes can lead to affliction of the consciousness. And it is not possible to have it of consciousness, let my consciousness be thus, let my consciousness not be thus. So we can't simply wish that my mind be so and so, that my mind be this state, that state. So likewise, we can't simply have kind of a control over our consciousness, because it is depending on various causes and conditions. Now, there Buddha further elaborate to this monks, using the impermanent nature of the consciousness. Now here, we have to recognize how the consciousness arises. Now, there are certain other suttas Buddha explain, and various other arahants explain how the consciousness arises. Say, for example, in the Madhupindika Sutta of Majjhima Nikaya, Venerable Kaccanagotta explains, Mahakaccana actually explains, that Chakkuncha Paticca Rupecha Uppajjati Chakku Viññāna. Now, because of the eye and the form, there arises the eye consciousness. So you can see the eye consciousness depends on eye and form. And not only that, even the eye has to be a healthy eye. If you simply close your eyes, you can't have the eye consciousness. Your eye has to be open, it has to be a healthy eye, and your attention has to be directed towards a particular form. At the same time, enough illumination should be available. And then the eye consciousness going to arise. So you can see the eye consciousness is a dependent phenomena. It is dependently arisen. It is not something arisen by itself. So many causes are there. Without them, eye consciousness can't arise. Say you are in a dark room and there may be a lot of furniture available, but you can't see any of them. If you switch on a light, maybe now you can see them. So this light, illumination, is one important factor, important cause for the arising of eye consciousness. Similarly, the ear consciousness. Similarly, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and again the mind consciousness. So these are called conditioned consciousness, or sometimes call them as prepared consciousness. They have to be prepared. So the other causes and conditions have to come in line, have to prepare in order for these consciousness to arise. So this is a dependently arisen consciousness. Say when we are talking even in the dependent arising, that formula, avijja pacca sankhara, sankhara pacca viññānam, viññāna pacca nama rūpam. So likewise, we may have heard that paticca samuppada, the dependent arising. So there are the ignorance causes formations. And these formations, preparations, actually cause the consciousness. So you can see the preparations are a prerequisite for this consciousness to arise. So this consciousness is a prepared consciousness, therefore. It is a dependently arisen consciousness. And when such consciousness is available, it can produce name and form as well, nama rupa, name and form as well. And there is a kind of a reciprocal relationship between the consciousness and the name and form. So this is highlighted in certain suttas like in Digha Nikaya, the long discourses of the Buddha, there is one sutta called Mahanidana Sutta. And again in the Nalakalapa Sutta. So in these suttas, Buddha and the Venerable Sariputta highlights the consciousness and the name and form have a reciprocal relationship. They are interdependent. The consciousness, this prepared consciousness, is necessary for the name and form to arise. Name and form is necessary for the consciousness to manifest. So they have a kind of a reciprocal relationship. And then we move forward, the name and form produces or causes to arise the 6 types of sense bases, salayatana, and then 6 sense bases causes to arise various kinds of contact. Contact causes to arise feelings. Feeling causes to arise craving. Craving causes to arise grasping. Grasping causes to arise becoming. And becoming causes to make jati, that is the birth, decay, and all those suffering. So likewise, there's a kind of a relationship or conditioned relationship taught in the Dhamma. And basically, the important thing to highlight here is here we are talking these 6 types of consciousness which are dependently arisen. And Buddha asks, are these consciousness permanent or impermanent? Tankim manyata bhikkave viññānam niccang va aniccang vāti. Are these consciousness permanent or impermanent? So the monks answer, they are impermanent. Say for example, when say you are watching a movie, all of a sudden suppose there's a electricity breakout. Now immediately everything gone, so you can't see anything. Suppose it's a pitch darkness. So so things are impermanent as well as they were dependently arisen. If any of those causes are absent, so the consciousness can't continue. So that prepared consciousness ceases. And as I mentioned, it is depending on so many causes, and any of those causes can be subjected to any kind of a change. In such situation, this consciousness can't exist. And it is also a very transient consciousness. It is not kind of a consciousness which is lasting for a long time. But the point is, this arising and passing away happens very quickly. Because of this rapid transition or this extreme rapidity, we can't even comprehend that consciousness is arising and passing away. Say for example, if you are keeping say fire ball, and if you are tightening it to a chain or something, and if you start to rotate, now you can even generate a circle of fire, a ring of fire. If someone see from outside, they see a ring of fire. From outside, it's just kind of a circle now. You can't see the individual positions of that fireball because it is so rapid, so fast. Similarly, when the consciousness happens very fast, then there you can't understand how quickly it is arising and passing away. Therefore, we feel that the consciousness exists for a long time. From the birth to the death, we have consciousness, ongoing consciousness. So this is the kind of a feeling that we have. But on the other hand, even logically we can understand when I consciousness is present, when it is coming to the front, all other 5 types of consciousness are subsided. They are sort of nullified. At that very moment, the I consciousness is the priority. If the ear consciousness come to the front, the other 5 types are subsided. They are ceased. If tongue consciousness come to the front, the other 5 goes away. So likewise, so during the day, say for example, so our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind, all they are in a kind of a competition. And each time, each moment, actually one type of consciousness comes to the front or comes to the, say, to the surface. to the manifestation. All others are not present at that time. But because of the rapid succession, we can't recognize that. Quickly we go through these all changes, and even when the I consciousness is there, so there are series of I consciousness continuously arising and passing away, which we can't, or it's very difficult to comprehend, very difficult to recognize. Unless one have a very sharp concentration, you can't recognize this quick arising and passing away. So therefore we feel that consciousness exists. And anyway, here these monks now already Sotapanna, and they already have some idea, and already they have their own experience. So therefore they quickly answer to the Buddha that the consciousness is impermanent. And then Buddha asks again, what is impermanent, suffering or happiness? If something is impermanent, can it bring us lasting happiness? Then these monks say no. And what is impermanent, subject to change, fit to be regarded thus: this is mine, this is I am, this is myself. So if something to be regarded as me, mine, myself, it should be at least able to keep under my control. And it should be something useful, and it should be something permanent. It belongs to me. But here we can understand consciousness is something external in a way, depending on so many external causes and conditions, and it doesn't behave as we wish, and therefore it is not worthy of telling that consciousness is me, mine or myself. And there Buddha further expands this logic, this understanding, that it is not merely the present consciousness, even the consciousness which were in the past, and the consciousness going to happen in the future, and the consciousness which is internal, in the sense that, say what we experience, or the consciousness that someone else experiences, or the gross or subtle. I mean, there are certain causes. Suppose we are hearing some noisy sound, so the kind of gross consciousness, ear consciousness. But suppose that we are listening to a very soft sound, there are kind of a subtle consciousness. And in many different ways, likewise, we can categorize depending on the tone. And any of these kinds of consciousness, and Buddha mentioned, are not worthy of telling me, mine or myself. So when one is contemplating like this, when one is able to recognize like this, experience like this, so rather than attaching to this consciousness, the consciousness starts to fade away. Say, for example, you are practicing, say, Vedananupassana. So at that time, you are able to recognize various feelings. Say, painful feelings, pleasurable feelings, equanimous feelings. So based on the feelings, now the consciousness manifests. The consciousness needs either form, feelings, perceptions, or the formations are to manifest. They are prerequisite. Without any of those four, the consciousness can't exist by itself. Now, as we are continuing our practice, say you are doing Vedananupassana, so the various feelings, you understand their impermanent nature. Various feelings, they are, say, transient nature. Once you are understanding, they start to disappear. They start to sort of fade away. Now there are no much feelings available. Assume that you are not grasping any form, you are not grasping any perceptions, you are not grasping any mental formations, and you are closely watching feelings, and these feelings also now start to fade away. Now where the consciousness going to manifest? Actually now the consciousness also loses its grip. So this prepared consciousness now can't get further prepared, or can't find its footing, or now can't get established. There is nothing to establish. So you are not established on form, you are not established on feelings, not established on the, say, perceptions, no, you are established on formations. So there, what happens? So this consciousness, the manifested consciousness, start to cease. So basically it is ceased now. But are you dead? So this is a kind of an interesting question that we can think of. So what is really happening when we are developing practice, developing especially the vipassana? So when we are practicing kayanupassana, the prominence is for the, say, the body, the form. When we are developing vedananupassana, the prominence is for the feelings. Chittanupassana and dhammanupassana to the other aggregates. So as we are more and more closely watching them, more and more closely we understand their characteristics, their impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and the non-self nature. So the prepared consciousness, so this established consciousness can't further establish, can't further get prepared. So now that particular consciousness start to cease. Now when this consciousness is no more, now there's simply the kind of an awareness. So this awareness is also called a different type of consciousness. It is called anidassana viññāna, or non-manifested consciousness. So this is kind of an interesting and some deep aspect of Dhamma, which is also explained in certain suttas. And here I like to take your attention on the Kevadda Sutta, which is available in the Digha Nikāya. So there's a question. Katta āpoca patavi tejo vayo nagadati. Katta diganca rassanca anunthulang subhasubang. Katta ñāmanca rūpanca asesang uparujjati. So this is a question asked from the Buddha by a monk. So he's asking, actually he asked a wrong question and Buddha actually little corrected the way of asking the question. And he is now asking the correct question. So he asks, where do earth and water, fire and wind, no footing find? Where is that long and short, fine and coarse, pleasant, unpleasant, as well as name and form, are held in check in way of complete? Now this is in a way kind of we call as duality, that our mind typically works on duality. Either good or either bad, either short or either long, either wholesome or either unwholesome, either pleasant or unpleasant, fine or coarse, long or short. So likewise, every time we are living in an extreme, either in this extreme or on the other extreme. So now this monk asks, where is this duality going to disappear? Again, where are these four elements, water, fire, earth, wind, where they are not going to manifest, where they are not going to find a footing? Where is this name and form going to be fully checked? So this is the question asked from the Buddha. And then Buddha answered there, viññānaṁ anidassanam anantaṁ sabbato pabam. Etta apoca patavi tejo vayo nagadati. Etta diganca rassanca anunthulang subhasubang. Etta nāmanca rūpanca asesang uparujjati. Viññānassa nirodhena etthetang uparujjati. This is a very interesting and very profound verse available in this sutta. And there Buddha mentioned, in this non-manifestive consciousness, there, which is endless, which is lustrous in all sides, and there this earth, water, fire, air do not find footing. And there the long, short, fine, coarse, pleasant, unpleasant, so that dichotomy or that duality not going to exist. And again, there this name and form not going to manifest. It is not shown there. And it is being cut off without any exception. So in this non-manifestive consciousness, in that awareness, and there that previously the mentioned prepared consciousness, eye consciousness, ear consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, nose consciousness, mind consciousness. So those are the prepared type of consciousness. So they are completely ceased. Those specifically prepared consciousnesses has ceased. There this check-in really happens. Now this is a kind of a very interesting point. So as one practices mindfulness and as one practices deep vipassana, so the consciousness, that prepared consciousness starts to lose its grip, loses its manifestation, loses its footing, and it starts to cease. It weakens and then ultimately it ceases. And then what is available is this non-manifestative consciousness, and there nothing is manifested. Basically, name and form is not shown there. So to give you a simple analogy, so we can consider like a cinema. So you know that if you go to a typical cinema, so there's a projector at the behind, and from that projector, you are projecting a light onto a white color screen. So assume that the whole cinema hall is in pitch darkness, and once the projector is on and there's a light beam projected onto the screen, then only you will understand, okay, there is a screen. And this screen is necessary for this projection or this light to show the film, show the story, show the actors and actresses and all the cinema. So you can see this light or the projector is one requirement, and the screen is the other requirement, and they are interdependent. So without the light, without this image, the screen is not visible. And without the screen, you have nothing to reflect. So the reflection is coming just because of the screen. So the screen and the projection, the light is interdependent. And the story, now that is actually happens because of the ignorance. Say we have kind of an ignorance, and when the movie is played, so we get lost in the movie. So we take it as something real. So there's a garden, there is a love scene or whatever it is, and now we are interested in that, and we get lost there. We are interested in that story. So that is because of our ignorance. But on the other hand, if we understand it is a movie, it is a light projection. So it is a screen that is showing this whole lights. So that's a kind of one way of understanding. Now, suppose if there is light also available, projector is also running, and the kind of image is also shown on the screen, at that time, suppose that someone is switching on all the lights or open all the windows, doors and windows. Now what happens? Now the images, the show, the film projected onto the screen start to sort of blur. So it has become sort of discolored. Now you can't find actors or actresses or flowers or anything, because that necessary conditions, causes are no more there. That pitch darkness is no more there. Because of that, so the film is not manifested. Now there is no cinema, there is no film. Instead, everything is sort of illuminated. There is no any narrow down reaction. Rather, now everything is open. So similarly, in the mind, so till we have ignorance, all those formations are possible. All those preparations are possible. all those fabrications are possible, but when ignorance is not there, when the vidya, aloka, the knowledge, understanding, the light is available in the mind, like the doors and windows are open, like all the lights are switched on, that pitch darkness has disappeared. Similarly, in our mind, when the ignorance is completely uprooted, so that film cannot be shown. So you are no more deluded by whatever the name and form happening in the mind. So that is where it is mentioned here. So when that prepared consciousness is completely ceased, that name and form does not exist. So there is awareness, there is non-manifestive consciousness, and which is bright, which is lustrous, and which is endless. So this is a kind of a deep teaching that Buddha is giving here, talking here. And with that note, I like to conclude today's Dhamma sermon. Now I open the session for questions.
I'm sorry, Bhante. Currently there's 5 questions. Question number 1, mindful sitting. Dear Bhante, thank you for this wonderful practice session, which has become the best 2 hours of my week, giving me calmness, serenity, and energy to start the week. I appreciate your practical guidance, especially due to accepting our own circumstances and guiding us to enjoy the present moment. I feel really comfortable when I sit and can enjoy the status of just be. When I am observing the breath, I feel this comfort in between the breaths. When the breath fades away and I get into spacious mindfulness without any specific object, I feel this comfort. Even when the body pains arise, when it is closer to 1 hour of sitting, in between observations of pain, I feel this comfort. I have been practicing nearly a year in this mode, and sometimes I feel that I'm craving for this comfort while on sitting practice. I don't know if this is a fabrication of thoughts from my mind or a natural feeling I get by seeing my underlying fetters and tendencies. Is there a way we can distinguish fabrication and seamless understanding? With metta, that's the end.
Yeah, actually, when you are able to have this spacious kind of awareness, and there is no any kind of selected object to the mind or to your attention, but the awareness is there, mindfulness is there, it is becoming sort of effortless. So that effortless mindfulness has to be developed at all postures. Say you are in the sitting posture, now you are able to have it for some time. How about prolonging it? How about enhancing it? If you are able to maintain it for 15 minutes, now you need to enhance it to say 20 minutes. Now we need to enhance it to 30 minutes. So likewise, now you are becoming familiar with it. Similarly, more and more you are becoming familiar with it, so you will understand it's a kind of a nature of the mind, and you may even able to get it or experience it while walking. So likewise, now we have to sort of dwell in that domain, dwell in that non-manifestive consciousness, dwell in that spacious mindfulness and the kind of non-grasping state of mind. So that is something that we need to develop, that we need to actually recognize it, we need to appreciate it, we need to enhance it, we have to be familiar with it, and more it becomes one's nature. Actually, mind's natural behavior is that, original behavior is that, but unfortunately we were in a kind of a shifted behavior or crafted behavior, manifested behavior we were in, but now only we found the home in a way. So coming back home, probably you feel like boring, but without feeling like that, you got to continue your practice, and more the clarity of mind may improve, and say awareness may increase, And there is no any kind of a focus to the mind, but rather it doesn't mean that mind is jumping from this to that, but mind has become sort of still. So as we discussed even today, now that when there is something to see, mind does not go and manifest there. That eye consciousness doesn't find its footing, or eye consciousness doesn't establish well. Rather, kind of an awareness is there. It is not that you go and watch it purposely and get involved there. Rather, sights are there, sounds are there, smells, touches, and all these things are there. But mind has found its own kind of a freedom. So this is what actually even we try to discuss today. And your question is somewhat related to that. And try to enhance it. Try to experience it. And you need to familiarize with it. Yeah, we can move forward.
Question number 2 of 5, general question. Dear Venerable Bhante, I've heard that one who practices this path is going to be like a unicorn. Bhante, would you please kindly teach us the Unicorn Sutta on this program? Thank you and much merits for your great service with metta. That's it.
Yeah, it is interesting sutta. Yeah, okay, then we'll actually today we are concluding the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta. Then from next week onwards, we can take that Unicorn Sutta, what we call as Kagga Visana Sutta, available in Sutta Nipata, and we'll start to teach that. So yes. Back to you, Chatuk.
Sorry, Bhante. Question number 3 of 5, general question. Dear Swaminatha, last time during the Dhamma sermon, you mentioned a very, very important point, that we should not compare and make judgmental decisions based on Lokotara Dhamma when you are not ready and refined enough to see these Dhamma. Example, the non-self aspect highlighted in Anatta Lakkhana Sutta. During the practice, when do you think we are refined or experienced enough to contemplate on these aspects? If we take the 16 steps you taught us during Anapanasati Sutta, can we presume that when we reach the Chittanupassana level, it is possible to use these Dhamma in our understanding? Much merits for your invaluable service. That's the end of the question.
So actually in the Vipassana, of course, we can use Anatta, the teaching of Anatta and the non-self. And so actually we don't need to wait till you come to Chittanupassana to use it. And say for example, even through Kayanupassana, you can come to the level of say non-grasping. Through Vedananupassana also you can come to the level of non-grasping. You can come to even Chittanupassana, Dhammanupassana, you can bring to the non-grasping state. So each and every, say, technique mentioned in the Satipatthana Sutta is capable of developing to such extent. So assume that you are practicing Kayanupassana. Say, for example, Dhatu Manasikara, which is easy to explain that 7 characteristics. And as much as possible, now you are observing various element characteristics. And there you will understand this body is nothing but elements. Various elements are manifesting. Earth element, air element, water element, fire element. So there is nothing substantial here. And what is available is nothing but elements. So there are also kind of non-self feature is available. Because previously you were thinking that this body belongs to me, there is I here, I am the owner of this body. So that kind of a wrong belief was there. But now you will understand now what is available is nothing but elements. There is nothing substantial, there is no core. And that is also an understanding of non-self. So the teaching of non-self has many aspects in a way. So this understanding of insubstantiality, is one aspect of the non-self teaching. And understanding there is no inner core, there is no any heartwood, there is no any essence, there is no any ongoing soul, are different aspects of this non-self teaching. So whenever you are practicing Dhatu Manasikara, elements meditation, at different levels you may experience it. It is not that you are trying to forcefully apply a theory. Rather, when you are continuing your practice, deep manner, you are experiencing there is nothing inside basically. Suppose it is very much like you are previously having kind of a solid body, but now that solidity has gone. It is no more there. Your body become porous. Now the wind can go through, something like that. So you are no more having a solid body in that sense. You don't have a kind of a compactness. Rather, everything becomes somewhat disintegrated. Now there you can't have kind of a core, essence, any substance, any hard wood. So there you will get this teaching or the teaching of the non-self. And there you find this body is not me, or this body is not a soul. This body is actually non-self. So likewise in the feelings also you can get the similar understanding, and using in the Chittanupassana while to applying to various feelings and the perceptions, formations, there also you can get this understanding. So the understanding of non-self is possible at many different levels, many different practices. So telling it is only available at the Chittanupassana is not correct. So it is available in the Kayanupassana, Vedanupassana, Chittanupassana and Dhammanupassana. So rather than trying to find a place to apply it, rather try to understand it. So let the time evolve, or let the time take to have that such realization. We should not be in a hurry to apply the teaching. Rather, let the mind to understand the teaching. So it's a matter of preparing the causes and conditions and continuing our daily practice. And we are simply supporting the practice. Say you are daily practicing, you are maintaining the sila, you are continuing your, say, samadhi, using your available samadhi, you are continuing your observation. So this observation is the one giving us understanding things as they truly are. So that understanding actually further leads to the understanding of non-self. Yeah.
Question number 4 of 6. This is a general question. Thero Saranai Bhante. This could not be a formal question. I feel like the concept of non-self is contradictory with the meditation that I try achieve, one focused mind, which is not disturbed by the external factors. Non-self means the 5 skandhas they are raised on causes. So I think I should be open to the so-called disturbances, accept them, and not to get disturbed. Then what we need to understand is the impermanence of all the skandhas. Please, can you correct me if my thinking is incorrect? Thero Saranai, that's the end of the question.
Yeah, actually, later you are coming to a level, so rather than you control things, so you allow naturally to manifest them. Say you are practicing Chittanupassana, say rather than you are trying to suppress the mind, suppress the feelings, suppress the thoughts, now you allow the mind to behave as it like. But you are in continuous check, or you are in continuous investigation how these things are behaving. So there you will understand they are behaving according to various causes and conditions, and they are quite impermanent, and therefore can't have kind of a self there, can't have kind of a soul there. So it is true that you can do it with form aggregate, you can do it with say feelings, perceptions, formations, and the understanding, as I mentioned, is possible with any of these practices, Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, Dhammanupassana. So I think there is nothing wrong. So I don't know whether I properly answered your question.
If that question hasn't been answered, then another question for us. Thank you. Question: manifestive consciousness, we reach non-manifestive consciousness. Presume this is not the end of the path. What is beyond this non-manifestive consciousness, which only knows pure awareness? With metta, that's the end of the question.
Yeah, actually, the non-manifested consciousness, we can say, it is not, I want to say that there is something beyond that. Rather, till we have raga, dosa, moha, the greed, hatred and delusion, we can't completely be in this non-manifested level. So our raga, dosa, moha actually time to time bring us back to that manifested consciousness, or what we call that conditioned consciousness. Eye consciousness, ear, tongue, nose, body, mind. So those consciousness again going to arise because we still have ignorance. Due to ignorance, we still do various formations. Again, therefore, that consciousness going to arise. So that is the problem. So the simple, say, 5 minutes experience of non-manifested consciousness does not mean that we are arahants. Because it is only limited to 5 minutes. Rest of the time we are back on that old cycle. So that old cycle has to be further recognized. Those grasping has to be further recognized. And by applying mindfulness techniques, applying, say, wisdom, there are again and again we have to improve those insights. So then this non-manifested way of consciousness become more and more available. So ultimately, suppose you become an arahant. So there one can say, okay, now there is no grasping as such. There is nothing which is making kind of a lasting grasping at all in the mind. So the mind is completely free. So Cheto Vimutti, Panya Vimutti. So there the mind is free. The freedom of mind is there. And it has been supported by wisdom as well. Now the complete purification has happened. So actually how name and form actually arise? So we have to go to those levels. So there we can understand, okay, these manifestations, name and form, actually arise because of the ignorance, illusion, raga, dosa, moha in other terms. So if we are able to uproot ignorance, then there are no formations. Then there are no manifested consciousness or prepared consciousness. So then what is existing, we can say, is the non-manifested consciousness, maybe all the time, or there are different arguments on that. Some say it is available all the time, or some say it is available only during the Arahatta Pala Samapatti. Whatever it is, but it is with the Arahants. So when the complete uprooting of Raga, Dosa, Moha, he is the perfect person which is experiencing non-manifested consciousness.
Just a little message from the previous question. That person says, Thero Sarnai Bante, yes, you answered my question. Actually, you answered me in the first question response. I got 2 more questions that come in response to this question. So this is number 6. Dear Venerable Bante, is the unmanifested consciousness the same as in into the unknown? Much merits. That's the end of the question.
Into the unknown?
Yeah, that's how they've written it. The same as into the unknown. Or maybe they mean same as the unknown, I think.
Unknown, we can't say like that, because as I mentioned, the completely ignorance has uprooted. So once the ignorance has uprooted, are we calling it as unknown? So the ignorance has gone. Now what is available is the vijja, the knowledge. Knowledge and vision is available. So therefore the wisdom is available. So therefore it does not mean that mind doesn't have any knowledge. So say for example, so it's a very beautiful example that Buddha gave in the, if you can remember that Pena Pindupama Sutta. There Buddha mentioned that the consciousness is like a vijja, like a magic. So if you are able to recognize all those tricks of the magician, then it is no more a magic. So you can't enjoy the magic show because, so you know all the tricks, you know all the cheating techniques of the magician. So you can't enjoy the magic show. So this is a knowledge in your mind. It is now, previously you didn't know that you have ignorance about those tricks. But now, suppose you know all the tricks of the magician and you know how he is tricking you. But now he can't trick you because you know that this guy is simply fooling us, simply trying to trick us, simply trying to cheat us. So that kind of understanding is there. So similarly, Buddha mentioned, so through the wisdom, so you will understand the nature or the reality of the consciousness. Therefore, the name and form can't further establish there. And therefore, what is available is a kind of a non-manifested kind of consciousness where the name and form is not established there. Name and form is not manifested there. So kind of we can say, like, that is why even today in that Kevadda Sutta, Buddha mentioned, Viññānaṁ anidassanaṁ anantaṁ sabbato pabhaṁ. So it is a unlimited kind of consciousness, and it is a luminous kind of consciousness. It is with wisdom. So you can't say therefore it is kind of an unknown.
Question number, this is question number 7, and it's sort of a continuation from the previous questions. Bhante, if we dwell 100% in the non-manifested consciousness, does that mean arahantship? Or is it one side of the coin and ignorance the other side, which needs to be uprooted? That's the end of the question.
That's what I mentioned. So at first, maybe you are experiencing it only for a short while, but again you lose it because of the ignorance. So more and more our ignorance is uprooted, more and more you are able to experience the non-manifested consciousness. So if you have no more ignorance at all, that means you can't have the prepared consciousness, the established consciousness or narrow consciousness. Rather, what maybe the arahants may have is the unmanifested consciousness, where his mind is not located or restricted or confined to a particular place or particular object because of kind of a grasping. Rather, the mind is not grasping. Mind is kind of an open, spacious, non-grasping. So that is how we have to understand. So anyway, you can become an arahant and tell me, because I am not an arahant anyway. Yeah.
Last question. This is from me, actually. It's a request. After the Unicorn Sutta, is it possible to discuss 4 foundations of mindfulness, Bhante? Sorry, that Sutta, that request.
Didn't we discuss Satipatthana Chatu here? I think we don't, no?
I have a terrible memory. Maybe we have. I don't remember. Sranga, did we do it?
No, we didn't.
Yeah, okay. So then, anyway, this I think there are about 18 or something verses in this Unicorn Sutta, Kaggavisana Sutta. Then you have to wait several months to get Satipatthana. I think anyway, as a change, we can discuss this Kaggavisala Sutta because it is having some interesting stories behind that related to each and every say verse. So it's I feel it's a kind of a interesting change to our program. So anyway, continuously talking about mindfulness sometimes make you boring. So let's have kind of a discussion of the Kaggavisala Sutta, and later again we can come back to the Satipatthana. I think it's kind of an interesting change. Yeah.
Thank you, Bhante. So that's the last of the questions. So I'd just like to conclude for today. First, I'd like to thank Bhante and pass on our merits for this valuable program and giving up all your valuable time to actually do this. Also, for the people seen and unseen participating and helping out with this program. And also, lastly, to the participants, because without you, there would be no program. With that, I'd like to end the program. Thero Saranai.
Yeah, Thero Saranai.